Everybody else has been working on these trade negotiations for months, toiling away all summer, all season, and Vegas just like shows up again at the last minute. Who the fuck are we getting? Who do we got? Oh, Anderson. Yeah. We know he wants to come here. We can probably scrounge some shit together for you. Yeah, dorks. It's always the same. Vegas does
See
what
you
Vegas
bitches
wants.
later. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the In the Dome podcast. Rasmus Andersson finally dealt. I think we'll kick it off with this tweet from Steinberg. Per Elliot Friedman on Flames Talk, Rasmus Andersson indicated today he wouldn't be signing an extension with anybody at this time. He took that leverage away from Calgary, knocked out Boston, and Vegas became the preferred deal. What's the likelihood Vegas has an extension ready to go for him?
It's probably already in the desk.
So this was you banging the warning drum for what? How many months now?
Bro, I've never seen this happen before. This has never happened. You're telling me for the first time.
So break this thing down from.
He's not. This is the first we're finding out he's going to use his right not to extend with any team and put us into a corner. Fuck. Who saw that guy? It's like Charlie Brown kicking the football. Fuck.
Break this thing down going back to the timeline of when the trade should have happened, as well as the trade itself and the return. Your thoughts on that? We'll get into White Cloud in a bit, and then what do you do with the remaining assets so you don't have the player take the leverage away from you again?
Why would you do? Didn't we learn this lesson? Or I thought we had learned this lesson. Apparently not.
Got to keep learning that lesson.
Sometimes the lesson you got to learn it like 4 or 5, 6, 7 times before.
I was seeing even tweets like, "Yeah, well, Craig has said he wants to make sure the player's taken care of amongst all this."
Yeah, of course.
Pretty high on his priority list.
It's weird how it never works the other. When's that going to come back to us? When's that going to work in our favor?
When are you going to learn?
Thanks for catering.
Taken advantage of, Craig.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, Craig, you're being too nice, man. It's like, people who are way too nice, and then everybody just exploits them. Chad Vegas just exploits you and bullies you again. It's so funny because, I actually like the trade when it all is said and done, but it was crazy because as this was going on Twitter, was this Friday night? This was before the Islanders game. It was kind of like out there on Twitter that a deal had been made with Boston.
Yeah.
And nobody, like, for sure, insider wise, I got burned not following my own rules. I have a rule that unless Elliot or somebody extremely close to the Flames confirms it, I don't believe it. But it was kind of out there. And I think everybody kind of got caught up in believing it because we're fucking in a desert here. We're watching 2-1 hockey forever with no trades in like 20, 18, 16, 12 months or whatever it's been. We're dying over here. We're dying for scraps. So it's like that came out from a few different places on Twitter. And we were kind of like, oh, fuck, finally it's happening. Yes, awesome. Woohoo. And it was like, what are we going to get? The return's going to be awesome because it sounds like it's going to be contingent on an extension. And that means it's not going to be a rental. And that means we're going to get a fuck ton. It's going to be great. Then he played. Then everything kind of got quiet. And I was like, And my first thought was, I bet you Vegas is going to swoop in and get it done. And I posted that. And I know Rob from Flames Nation, we were on the same wavelength. It was like, Vegas is going to end up getting him. We all know it. We're just not ready to admit it yet. Because have you ever heard the expression, Chad does what Chad wants? That's Vegas. Vegas does what Vegas wants. So I as soon as the Boston stuff started to like not get done, it was like a couple hours. He played the next day. You didn't hear anything. Nothing's confirmed. It was kind of like, okay, I can kind of see where this is going. And then sure enough, Vegas has acquired Rasmus Andersson. And I think this is why there was initially such a negative response, I think, amongst Flames fans, because it was like, oh, of course. Vegas, fuck, of course. Of course this happened. Of course the extension talks made us had the lack of extension talks boxed us into a corner and we had to pivot. And Vegas is just standing there like, Where does it bring you? Back to me. They're just like, they've been waiting this out. They're just like, the drunk uncle. Everybody else has been working on these trade negotiations for months, toiling away all summer, all season. And Vegas just like shows up again at the last minute. Who the fuck are we getting? Who do we got? Oh, Andersson. Yeah. We know he wants to come here. We can probably scrounge some shit together for you. Yeah, dorks. All right, I'll call you back in like 15 minutes. Hang on, hang tight. They like do like a line of coke or like a couple shots. Okay, here's what we got. Send them our way, please, and thank you. Just it's always the same. Vegas does.
We'll see you Vegas bitches wants. Later.
Yeah, see you.
I'll give us a call when Coleman's ready to get dealt.
That's right.
When you're about to accept an offer on Coleman, give us a call back.
We'll have some shit.
We'll take him too.
We'll take everything you're worth. Also, it's going to be there's a clause in this contract that I get to teabag you when this is all said and done. Put that in there too.
You ever heard of the Arabian goggles, Craig?
That's right. That's in the conditions just for shits and giggles. So,
conditionally on live TV if we win the cup.
When we win the cup, bitch. So, I mean, how that all unfolded was, as a Flames fan, kind of triggering for sure.
Because you've been hearing it's just like, the Flames don't feel like there's any rush in dealing with this Andersson. Yeah. We're going to let him. We know we're going to trade him back. We know he's going to be traded this season. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no rush, though. Why would you want to do it last year?
No rush. We definitely have some leverage still, even though we don't at all because we gave it all up because we've been humming and hawing.
You're hearing the same thing. There's no rush dealing Cole. He's got another year on his contract. There's no rush dealing Cotter. He's got 2 years on his contract.
So I think in the sense that you're frustrated as a Flames fan is that it all kind of shook down, in the way that you'd expect, very similarly to the Hanifin thing. And I mean, the return, I think, is a lot stronger than that. And it wasn't nearly that much of a debacle. But, at the end of the day, you probably ended up with a lesser return because you put yourself in this situation. So I think that's what's irksome to most Flames fans is like we've been saying. I mean, even going back like 2 years when they were trading everybody else, saying like, man, you really have a valuable asset in Andersson. Why don't you explore trading him? And I think that's the ultimate frustration. It's not even that like they didn't trade him then, it's a why they didn't trade him. It's like, to what end? What was the point? What was the point of not trading him at the 24 deadline in the 24 offseason? What was the point of not dealing him at the 25 offseason? What was the point of not dealing him at the 25 trade deadline? There was no point.
Well, the biggest point and problem is they still thought they were good.
Correct. And that's what irks you, because to what end did they go through all of this? Right? For nothing really, other than a vague, we need to keep
other than Don Maloney still believing that this team could make the playoffs.
Other than like a slight delusion of them thinking they can make the playoffs, or other reasons like, we're not sure if we like Rasmus Andersson and he's a good guy.
He might want to stay.
He might actually want to stay and things like that. So it's like, to what end did you drag all this out? And then again, you're left with, I don't know if it's a subpar return. Circumstantially, it's a good return, but in the broader contracts, I would say it's probably a subpar return, because to what end? For really no reason, because you just were caught dragging your feet again, humming and hawing, couldn't make your mind up, weren't thinking in 3 to 4 in terms of 3 to 4 to 5 years.
Not being realistic of where this team's currently at.
Yeah, exactly. Not being a forward-thinking team again, and then walking yourself into a situation again where you kind of left the leverage. You left yourself without any leverage at the end of the day. Because that's kind of what I was saying with this whole extension thing being a factor, going back 6 months, a year, 2 years, is when you let it get to that point, like we saw play out with Hanifin. It doesn't matter what offers are on the table. You don't have final control. You don't have control of the situation. That's exactly what happened. It sounds like
Craig,
Boston.
During this whole process in the last few days, Craig was quoted that we want to make sure that the player's happy too.
Yeah,
that's pretty high on our priority list.
See, that's got to end. And I think that's what you're left with this again, with that line of thinking has to end, right? And you thought, okay, well, they learned a lesson from the Hanifin thing or whatever. It's not the exact same situation, and it didn't play out in the exact same way, but there's still like that thread of you're still making these decisions. You're still putting off making these decisions for just poor reasons, right? I think that's what you're left frustrated as a Flames fan. It's like, that needs to stop. You need to have control of all these situations. You need to stop kind of putting yourselves in some of these weird circumstances because of reasons like that. I'm not trying to like penny and dime and be like, well, you could have got, this if you had traded them last deadline. You could have got an extra second round pick or a first round pick. I'm just saying, like, in the broader context, the way some of these decisions have been made, the reasoning behind them needs to change, right? You can't hold on to Rasmus Andersson to the last minute, give the player all the control, give the acquiring team all the control, and then just kind of get undercut by Vegas at the last minute again because you decided to keep them for stupid reasons. And you apply that to other players on the team. The lesson is, okay, trade Coleman now. And it's not about trading Coleman now because the extension would be a factor with a guy like Blake Coleman. I don't think that's right because, he's a lot older. I think he would be traded kind of as a rental in general. Like, you're not trading Coleman with an extension in place if you were to trade him next year. The point is, you have to be realistic about things and know where you're going. And if Blake Coleman is hot as fuck and there's 20 teams calling about him, you have to trade him irregardless of if you like him, if you want to keep him, if you think, well, maybe this is a one-year face plan and he'll be good for the team next year. That's kind of the line of thinking. Rasmus Andersson, when he has 2 years left on his deal or a year left on his deal or whatever, and prices are sky high at the trade deadline, you should be trading him, not thinking, well, we might be able to squeak into the playoffs this year. So it's not necessarily about, we need to stop giving players all the leverage, even though that's true. It's not necessarily about, well, they could have nickeled and dimed and penny and like squeezed a little bit more out of Andersson had they traded him at last deadline or in the offseason. It's about the reasoning behind why these situations keep occurring, or the reasoning behind why you're not moving players, right? So that's just what needs to change. Like, okay, trade Coleman now. And I mean, on Friedman's show, go listen to Friedman's show today because he breaks it down pretty good. It sounds like, the Flames aren't done. So thank God. That's a huge relief, because if it was one and done, I think we'd all be freaking out. And they need to keep moving forward. So trade Coleman now. He's a valuable asset. Teams are calling. He's hot. You can't keep telling yourself this bullshit of, we need to keep some of these guys. Oh, we can still make the playoffs. Oh, we need leaders. We need guys who are good. No, like, that's the line of thinking that needs to end. I think that's the lesson from this. The lesson isn't you need to trade these players preemptively necessarily. It's that you need to have ultimate control. And what that is predicated on is you need to know clearly in your mind where you're going at all times. And every decision needs to be based on, where are we going to be in 5 years? And that's the only thing that matters. That's it.
Which, if you're reading between the lines from what we've heard from Don Maloney and management, I mean, Craig has a different tune to him. I mean, he's quoted after the trade saying, this is one move that we had to do at some point, and we're going to look at see how we can continue to improve our team. We're going to try and get young guys in. That's the goal right now. But coming back to Don Maloney's rant, it's just like, it doesn't seem very clear where they project to be in 5 years and how they're going to get there, and that's why the fans are so frustrated. When he did that interview with Parker and Francis, it just left everybody more confused about the evaluation of what this team currently is, where they're going, and how they're going to get to the ultimate end goal. And I think this just comes back to what you're saying is, make decisions based on one thing. Yeah. Set one goal, because they have a simultaneous goal of making the playoffs every year while winning the Stanley Cup in 5 years. And that those two things do not mix. Like, you got to choose one or the other. And I think that's why there's so much frustration in the fan base, and just like, this is how you stay mid, because you can't commit to making all the right decisions to actually win a cup in whatever it is, 4 or 5 years, or contend for a cup. And it's these little things. It's the little things, right? Maximizing every single asset. Because if you look back at the past bunch of trades we made, outside of Lindholm, like, how many of the assets were absolutely completely maxed in terms of using all the leverage you had and not losing any leverage in any of these trades? And they just did the same thing again. Steinberg reporting, like the Flames, they gave up their leverage because they were trying to appease the player too much. And the timeline in the reality of the the correct evaluation of where they currently are. But I think the biggest thing just comes down to they're not going all in on the ultimate goal, which is building a Stanley Cup contender in a window for a certain amount of time in the future.
What you're left with is just like the Flames need to, okay, this part needs to stop where they're just humming and hawing. It needs to be, we're fully committed to this in every single way across the board. We're fully committed to, our goal in 5 years. Nothing else matters. And that's it. And we are going to start controlling all these situations. I think that's just what you walk away with, is the Flames need to stop being like victims of circumstance that they put themselves in, right? And stop being like, well, we ended up with a lesser trade return because at the end of the day, we left this in the player's hands and he used his right and his leverage against us. And the acquiring team, like I said, Vegas can come in and kind of undercut the market again. So stop putting yourself in that situation. And the reason you're in that situation is because a specific line of thinking and a specific way you base all your decisions. And that the way you base all your decision has long been too short term and not long-term thinking, not enough long-term thinking.
I mean, let's be honest. This is why Team Tank has grown to such proportion and strength that it has in the fan base for these reasons, because it's not necessarily, I would say a smaller percentage of Team Tank exists because of black and white. We think that, rebuilding is a solid path forward. I think the growing size and strength of Team Tank has really been because these guys won't admit that they're just got one leg on each side of the fence.
Yeah.
Like they can't commit to this rebuild. They're just so hell bent on, well, we're going to do this retool because we kind of just want to sneak into the playoffs. That'd be better. That'd be better than pulling it back, taking it down, and actually rebuilding a contender. We just rather just hope on a miracle each season. And that to me is the biggest reason why Team Tank has grown to the numbers it is, to the strength it is, to the voice it is because we're fighting against this MO of just squeaking into the playoffs and seeing what happens. We got to commit to this path of building a contender at all costs and not giving a shit what these players want and making them comfortable in these trades. Because like you said, you're diminishing your returns. You do that enough times. I mean, still, like you said, the trade, you don't absolutely hate it because how many picks we got in the next?
Yeah, we have at least four in the first round picks in the next 2 years. So it'll be a 4 straight years of multiple picks in the first round for the Flames. So you like that. And again, my complaint, I said last week, I wasn't going to complain about the return. I don't think I was ever going to complain about the return. It's just the fact that we ended up getting here. So I had to get that, we have to get that out of the way, right? Like this shouldn't have got to this point. I think we were all saying like it should have been dealt with a long time ago. And I still think that rings true. At the same time, you now have 4 first-round picks. You're going to own Vegas's picks forever, and they're just like, we don't care. You have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, 2 first-round picks potentially in next year's draft. If Vegas wins the cup this year, you could have 6 in the next 3 years, yours and Vegas's. So that's great. Again, deleting Andersson from the roster helps you tank for sure. I know Whitecloud's pretty decent defenseman, but it does help the tank, which is, again, let's not lose sight. That's the ultimate goal, right? McKenna is still the goal. What you get in a Rasmus Andersson return isn't the be-all, end-all of this rebuild. Getting those top-tier players in the top 3 of the draft is.
Friedman reporting the Flames aren't done yet. He doesn't think they're done yet. Says they're still likely to look at trading Coleman and potentially even flipping Whitecloud.
Yeah, if they flipped Whitecloud, that would make this, That's asset management for sure right there. Flipping White Cloud would really push this into like, hey, this trade is very good, I think. Because you could probably, what could you get for second round pick? Easy. He's good defenseman, the kind of defenseman that people love adding at the trade deadline.
Brad would love White Cloud.
Brad would be all over White Cloud. Brad was in on Anderson, just so you know. He was there until the very end, but couldn't make it work, of course.
So the full trade breakdown: Anderson to the Knights for Zach Whitecloud, defensive prospect Abram Weeb, conditional first-round pick in the 2027 NHL draft. So next year's draft, and the condition is the conditional second-round pick is if in 2028 is if the Vegas Knights win the cup this year.
Yeah, so it has to be they win the cup this year. So I guess that kind of makes sense. Initially, I saw that and I was like, that made me laugh because I was like, that's such a Vegas thing to do. That it's kind of like, again, it was funny when the Hanifin trade went down and we got the first round pick, but they made it conditional, and like there was a condition that they weren't sure they were going to give up last year's first or the next year because they wanted to make another trade. They wanted to keep it instead in case they wanted to make another deal, which is just such a fucking Chad move. They're just like, we'll give you whatever fucking pick we want. We might use that pick. So we'll get back to you.
They even probably called it a first round conditional pick.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a conditional first round pick if we win the Stanley Cup this year. Craig's like, no, that's a conditional second. They're like, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of funny. They're like,
shrewd. Brad would have fell for that.
Yeah, Brad would have had all kinds of insane conditions on any of these picks, none of which would have actually helped the team either. It would just been totally ridiculous. So it's kind of funny that, you know, if they win the cup this year, our pick this year would, you know, be lesser, but then we get a first round pick next year. So it's kind of funny in that way. But maybe that's a way of Conroy knowing that, okay, I'm giving this team a boost. So in the event that they do actually win the Stanley Cup, I can at least get a first next year because I'm already giving them enough to make our pick worse this year. That if it ends up being ultimately 32nd overall, at least I can get a first next year. So,
there's always the little making the Pacific Division a little bit stronger. So Edmonton has a tougher time.
There's always that. You know, I'd love to see Hanifin and Anderson beat the shit out of Edmonton. So I'm always good. I'm always good with that. I know people are always like, I hate Vegas. You know what? To me, it's just entertaining at this point. It's entertaining when they take all of our shit, to be honest. Like, I'm just like, what the fuck can they scrounge up now? It's like so fun to watch because, like I said, I'm jealous. I wish we were like that. You know, I wish we didn't give a fuck about anything and knew who we were and planted our 2 goddamn feet on the ground and did whatever we want. Vegas knows who Vegas is because everyone's like, they've traded away every single first round pick for like however many years. And they're just like, yeah, that's how we roll. We don't fuck around.
We get all the studs though, right?
We don't fuck around. And I think that's just win or lose, whatever. You appreciate that they don't fuck around. You know, they don't hum and haw.
Just the trade itself in a vacuum, out of 10, what would you rate it?
Well, yeah, I think it's funny because I think everybody goes through the same process when a trade like this happens. And I think it was heightened because it was Vegas. And I was like, oh, fuck, it's Vegas. Of course it is. So I think when it first came down, and given all the shit we had heard that maybe was on the table from Boston, you were kind of like, what a fucking joke, dude. What a total joke. And we're getting White Cloud back. You know, I know everybody's concerned about that. Another right shine shot. DU's 29. Fuck.
Well, part of this was like, oh, great. We're going to make some room for Zane and Brstevich. Who else? Nope.
And then it's like, oh, and a conditional pick that Vegas is just like, oh, good. So we're essentially getting like, at best, 2 late first round picks in White Cloud in some, you know, whatever prospect. Oh, great. So a scrap in again. That was the first reaction for sure. But I think then once you kind of like calm your tits a little bit and realize, okay, well, you know what? It helps us tank, which is the primary goal. Again, don't lose sight of that. You get a first round pick, at least for sure. With how this team is drafted, I think picks are way more important. You know, I'd rather not be picking up other teams like kind of mid prospects or project prospects, right? I'd way rather have picks than prospects at this point. So, you know, by the end of it, circumstantially in a vacuum, as a rental trade, I think the Flames did fine. Maybe at this point you say a 6 or a 7. Is that fair? They retained 50% of the salary too, so maybe it would have been nice to squeeze a little bit more. But, in a vacuum, it's probably, it's a pretty okay deal for the Flames. It was interesting seeing other fans' reactions who aren't Flames fans. And they were kind of like, wow, the Flames cleaned up here, for Rasmus Andersson. But so in a vacuum, it's pretty good. It's better than the Hanifin trade, at least. It's not Daniil Miramanov where you have to do this cope of like, he's actually really good, guys. Vegas just hasn't used him to his full potential. He's actually a superstar, you guys. So I'll take a first and a second any day of the week. If it ends up being a second, I'll take that any day of the week. You know what? You go back to the Mangiapane trade or even the Markstrom trade. And I was like, those look great now, right? I think I've been on record of like, I don't care, just get picks no matter what. So in a vacuum, I'm pleased. I would much rather have a first and a second and whatever else than Rasmus Andersson signed to a huge deal. So
what do you know about this Abram Weeb prospect?
I don't know much other than what Connie said. So he is Cole Reshny's teammate over at North Dakota.
Interesting.
So he's unsigned currently. I don't know. It's kind of hard with all these prospects because we always play this game of like, he's actually really good. It's like, yeah, I don't know. He's a college prospect. So we'll see, I guess. But I think he's been playing with, Connie mentioned that he's been playing with Keaton Verhoff at North Dakota, who, hey, maybe he's a guy we could be getting in the top 3 or the top 5 this year. So I don't know. Dauber prospects. He's in his 3rd collegiate season. Sees himself. Conroy mentioned, the thing is the Flames are always mentioning he wears a letter. He's a good leader. He's a good guy. So he's probably a long shot, but organizational depth guy.
Great cultural fit, probably. Yeah.
Great cultural fit. Well, I heard White Cloud's going to be great for the culture too. Great guy. I think he is a really good guy, but it's just funny that that's always what the Flames are worried about, eh?
I thought this was interesting. James Johnson posted this. It's the Sven Virchie trade tree.
Oh, man, this is a good one.
Sven drafted 13th overall by the Flames in 2011, traded to the Canucks for a 2nd rounder, which became Rasmus Andersson.
Beautiful.
Andersson plays 9 seasons, drafted to Vegas for a 2027 first and a 2nd. Zach Whitecloud and Abram Weeb.
Beautiful. Yeah, see, that's good asset management. Again, like it maybe wasn't the best asset management, but it's better than, that's why I like these trades for picks, man.
Breaking news coming in through Bet365 or an no-bait overtime win. It's barn burner, a face-off hat-trick power play shot on goal. Every penalty shot and every successful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. We figured we'd do some Andersson, maybe top 5 memories or something like that. Just trying to rack the brain. But so the Flames, they go into Columbus. We recorded after that. They get 2 wins. They close at the road trip and win in Chicago. Andersson plays, and then you hear all this trade talk, and you're just like, there's no way they're going to play Andersson against the Islanders. But they do, because they're the Flames, and they want to give him one final game on home ice. It was nice to see him get through the game, obviously uninjured, and then just rolling the dice.
Holy cow, dude!
Just rolling the dice. But he had a nice little lap at the end of the game, saluting the fans, taking it all in one more time at the Dome. Everybody knew he was the last guy off the ice. All the teammates embracing him there, and you could tell it was happening. That was going to be his last game as a Calgary Flame. And then you kind of go through the emotions, right? Oh, fuck. Yeah, we've had some pretty good memories
times
with Andersson's. I feel like I think I'm missing one. There was one other one, but obviously, he was a big part of the whole Chucky and Johnny crusade. I remember that. I think this was the same year as Stay Off the Tracks. Remember when he did that boom?
Yeah. He did it to Zuccarello. And
Zuccarello, yeah.
He was like, you boom.
Yeah.
It was like on TV.
I'm not sure who hit him. Did Anderson hit him? Somebody rocked Zuccarello, right?
Anderson, and nobody really knew what he was talking about it, but he was referring to a time he clocked Zuccarello previously. So it kind of went back. So that was always a good one. The boom. Yeah, that was freaking hilarious. That was awesome. See, and yeah, that's what you remember about Anderson, right? It was like, I kind of said this just in a post. It was just like he was a part of that team, and anybody who was a part of that team at that time, you know, you're always going to remember fondly, right? Like he was right there with Johnny and Chucky, and like in the correct timeline, in the good timeline, in the Brad Tree Living doesn't ruin the franchise timeline, in another dimension where we all exist and we're actually happy for once. Like he's right there with Johnny and Chucky and Monahan, like lifting the cup for the Flames, right? So I remember he had that in the playoffs, which, you know, it ultimately sucked because Markstrom shit the bed and they lost that game, but he scored that goal on Mike Smith from his own blue line in that playoff series.
Yep. To
tie the game. Remember the Oilers were up 3-0, I think. Fuck, that was a stressful time for me. But Anderson scores to tie the game on a own blue line clapper that goes in on Mike Smith. And Mike Smith looks around, of course, at everybody else like, what the fuck? Who let this happen? It wasn't me. So that was great.
Yeah.
He had
how about the mocking Tom Wilson?
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah, sure. Like you got to give credit to Ross. He's a great chirper. He's in the fabric of the game. Obviously he can't put a stamp on the games like Matthew Tkachuk used to do, but he's definitely a thorn in your side when you're playing against him. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits in Vegas and what he can do there on a much higher skilled team, a cup contending team. So it'll be cool to see and track his progression there for sure. But yeah, the chirping Tom Wilson, mocking Tom Wilson when he was kind of trying to embellish. That was awesome.
He was always like, and you know what? We don't really get a lot of those guys in Calgary who have like personality. We kind of get like the boring.
How come no one ever told Rass to tone it down?
Well, yeah, no kidding, eh? He's telling everyone off. Well, I guess they kind of maybe remember his first season where he kind of came to camp a little bit out of shape, and Tree Living had to have a little chat with him. One of the best memories is actually his first NHL goal. It's crazy how time flies because it's like 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, we're like, fuck, can we get Anderson in the lineup? Like, why are we re-signing Stone? For fuck's sakes. Let's get some of these younger guys in the lineup. Now here we are. He's traded, and we're like, can we get these younger guys in the lineup? But his first NHL goal is one of the best Flames games of all time, I would say. Flames were playing Philly in the 2018-19 chaos season, and they were down 5-3 with like a minute left. Anderson's on the ice. Johnny sets up his first NHL goal, 5-4. And they're like, yeah, okay. Goalie still pulled. Monahan scores with like 5 seconds left. And then Johnny scored in overtime. The overtime was electric. Riddick stopped Provorov on a breakaway. Johnny, Imani, and Gio come down the other way and score the game winner. Flames win 6-5. What a fucking time.
I remember Chucky post-game was like, that's the loudest I've ever been in any arena. It was insane.
That was an amazing game. So I always remember that one. That was a good one. But yeah, he was a good Flame. Good Flame. And I think he's going to do great in Vegas. Like I've been saying that. I was saying this last year because everybody was like, what the fuck's up with Anderson? He's minus 100. He's playing terrible. It's like he's been put into a role that's probably a little above his head.
He was playing with a broken foot.
On a shitty team, playing, matchup minutes. Like that's not really his game. If he goes into Vegas and slides into that second pair, you forget how good him and Hanifin were together that year under Daryl. Where they were a top pair. They weren't used in the shutdown role. That was more of Tanev's thing. But him and Hanifin were lights out. They can be a second pairing on Vegas. That's going to be they're both like, yeah, he's going to do really well there, I think, for a few years for sure.
Obviously, the spanning back to this last year, but he starts to stare down celebrations. I don't think this has ever really been done like this in the NHL.
So it's gonna be fucking sick when he stares a Flames fan down. I can tell you that. That's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah, that'll be epic. When do we play Vegas next?
I don't know, but do we play them again this year? We must. I feel like we played them twice. Let's look that up.
We might,
but that'll be great. He's got to do it in the dome for sure. Even if he kind of stops that celebration, which I don't think he will, but he's got to do it.
He's gonna keep doing that.
He's got to do it in the Saddle Dome for sure. He should stare down Francis or something. Just feel like
we only play Vegas one more time this year, and it's on April 2nd in Vegas.
Okay, so he won't be back to the Dome this year, but it'll be great when he does do that.
He'll find a Flames fan in Vegas.
That's true. There's a lot of Flames fans there. Maybe we should all go. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. Put signs, stare me down, please. Obviously, coupled with the stare downs was the whole dislike of the AI rendition of himself last year.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times he was publicly saying he hated it, thought the head was too big, even though he's got a giant dome and everybody knows it. Eyes were too far apart. So that was pretty funny with the Christmas, 8-hour stare down. We got some pretty good off ice content. From Andersson
all the time for sure. He's the kind of guy you want on the team. And for us, for the identity of the Flames, like we want the Flames to be hated. And again, he was a part of that when the Flames were truly, when it was like Chucky and Bennett were here, like he was a part of that too. It's like these guys that you just fucking can't stand playing against. It's like I have to play against this prick again tonight. Oh,
well, and a good measure of that is how he shows up against the Greasers in Edmonton, the Battle of Alberta. He had some good quotes calling those guys pretenders, had no respect for them.
Beautiful.
Chirping Mangiapane when he gets traded, how ugly he looks in that uniform.
Yeah. See, that's my favorite memory. That's the best. My lasting memory is like, that's what we need more of, is more guys who hate the Oilers as much as Andersson did. So absolutely, for sure. Always took it up a notch against the Oilers. So always appreciated that. And hopefully he can beat their ass in the playoffs this year.
Hey, buddies. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.